Welcome to the Zachrilege cast. Do not adjust your earbuds. You are watching and or listening to the Zachrilege cast, the one podcast as true as a Mike Huckabee rant that focuses on the great people helping America to be great, but not in the way you think. This show brings on anyone who I deem awesome enough to talk about atheism, secularism, and this week, food that isn't babies. Today is July 28th, 2015, for the types who are interested in that sort of thing. First, I'd like to thank Shane Thrapp for being on last week, and especially for sharing the bits about his love life. What a trooper. Tonight, we bring on the only man who could make the 2015 Pennsylvania State Atheist / Humanist Conference happen, the man who's feeding the hungry with alarming efficiency. He is the co-chair at Secular Coalition of Pennsylvania and president of Pennsylvania Nonbelievers. And that's a lot of times to say Pennsylvania on a glass and a half of wine. Brian Fields, good evening, and how are you?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm doing pretty good. Been very busy, but I'm doing pretty good.
So can you tell everybody what your secret location is, where you're broadcasting from?
Oh, I'm based in the Carlisle area, Pennsylvania. It's near Harrisburg, central Pennsylvania.
So you're originally from Pennsylvania?
Oh, yeah. I've lived here most of my life, yeah.
If you say Yuns, that I know you're close to Pittsburgh.
I actually central Pennsylvania is a little bit different, but yeah, I know a lot of the Yinzers. We did our last conference actually last year. Our conference was in Pittsburgh, and we had a crew out there who was helping us run it. So.
Yeah, there are a lot of Pennsylvania folks. A couple that I know anyway, but I'm originally from that area. Although if you ask me any questions, I probably won't know because I moved out when I was like 6. But that is where I'm from. I guess that's where I get this extraordinarily awesome flat accent of mine. So is it true what they say that Pennsylvania is like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and then kind of like Kentucky in the middle?
Yeah, and I live in Kentucky, so I'm well familiar with the idea. And actually, I mean, we've got a few cities kind of in the middle, but outside of those areas, you might as well just be in the Deep South. There's a lot of crazy making here. We've had I don't know if you saw it, the teenager that got charged with desecration of a venerated object for jumping up on the Jesus statue. He positioned himself in front of Jesus to make it look like Jesus was blowing him, and then posted it on Facebook. And they charged him with desecrating a venerated object, which it basically is the way it was interpreted by the DA, Pennsylvania's blasphemy law.
Well, were the charges, what ultimately happened with that case? Because I remember it being mentioned on Barroom Atheist, and they came for a sort of a protest of sorts. So what did ultimately happen in that case?
Unfortunately, the kid ended up being worked out a deal with the DA so that if he does 200 hours, I think it was, of community service, and makes an apology, that they wouldn't try him. So essentially, he got sentenced before actually fighting it.
Okay, well, being like probably a juvenile, right? Didn't want to have a record and all that, so it was like,
well,
okay.
Yeah, and that was the idea, was to avoid that. But I mean, I don't know if you realize how. I mean, 200 hours is a lot of time for community service. And the fact of the matter is, he shouldn't have been charged at all. He didn't actually commit any chargeable crime. He wasn't trespassing. He wasn't. He didn't damage any property. He didn't hurt anybody. He just posted a picture that a particular DA found offensive, and it's something that is pretty. It's kind of upsetting to think that could happen. That they picked on a kid who, in his community, is kind of thought of as a black sheep, and made an example out of him.
Yeah, it does seem like political points are being made in that case. It gives the DA a little bit of fuel, like, hey, see what I did with this kid, even though ultimately no time was done. But hey, that is, 200 hours is basically a full-time job for 5 weeks, and it's probably not doing it full-time, so it's going to take a long time to
Right.
work off the time.
Oh, and he was banned from Facebook and social media and stuff like that too. But yeah.
Banned from social media. That's awesome.
Yep.
For some people, that'd be a good thing, but not for me. That'd be torture. So, Brian, what is your personal background? Like, did you grow up in like a religious family?
Yeah.
Did you have that Christian background?
Yeah, I grew up. I grew up in a fundamentalist church. When I was a teenager, I started questioning what I was brought up with, and I ended up a pagan for many years, and started questioning that as well. A lot of you come around a lot of the same questions, as far as if magic is exactly like prayers and neither one of them works. Anyway, so I did some reading, and I really came to the point where I was considering myself an agnostic. I read The God Delusion, which helped me organize a lot of my thoughts about what it meant to not believe, and did a lot more reading, decided I wanted to get involved. I had just recently moved back to Pennsylvania. I was living in LA for 5 years. And I moved back to Pennsylvania right after the Kitzmiller v. Dover trial. And that trial is really what inspired me to get involved in activism. The idea that that given enough, with the religious right given their druthers, they would impose religious viewpoints in the public school classroom. With both of my kids in school, this was something that really inspired me to want to get active and do something to fight against this.
So is paganism basically what a lot of religious people think atheists are?
We're talking about Wicca and witchcraft and magic, and it really ends up being a lot of wishful thinking mixed in with strong, new agey beliefs and things like that.
Do you remember any like spells? You try any of that stuff?
Oh, it was absurd. I mean, it just, in the end, it really was. It's a lot of show to around trying to focus your ideas on a particular purpose that you want to accomplish. And there's no, a lot of people look at it like they're if you follow this formula or this recipe, it's going to result in this, and it really isn't that. It really is a lot of people just kind of making stuff up as they go along and hoping that something good comes from it.
So it was like, in a way, a bit of a gateway drug. And what was the time period for you? I mean, what age were you when you were trying this all out?
Oh, like I said, I was a late teenager to early 2000s. So through my 20s and early 30s.
Did you have that aha moment where you're like, I don't believe anymore, or is it just kind of a gradual thing?
I don't think anybody really has a switch off moment where they decide that they don't believe. I think there is a day that you find out that you haven't believed for a very long time. It's usually such a gradual process, and this is not just with me, with a lot of people I talk to who used to be believers, where you start accepting for yourself, okay, I don't believe in that. Yeah, no, I don't believe in that. No, I don't believe in that. And then finally, you find cause to ask yourself, well, what really do you believe in? When it comes to the beliefs that you've either grown up with or adopted, and you find that there's nothing left, that anything that is left is really kind of a shell of the original. So with Christianity, there was a lot more an active exploration where I was really I had a bunch of things that had happened within my beliefs to make me question those beliefs. Why a God would it mainly was wrapped up in the actions of people who were supposedly teaching God's word and all this other stuff. I touch on some of it. I have a blog I write to very, very occasionally, but I wrote my backstory there with one of these incidents. I was at a church camp, and there was an event they had where it was obviously manipulative, and it was one of those flashpoints where it's like, wow, these people really are trying to manipulate me to believe in Jesus. And then I started questioning that, and it really led me to start reading the Bible. And of course, you've heard all of the admonitions about, well, if you want to become an atheist, go read the Bible. And there were a lot of questions I had when I was reading the Bible, and it really didn't make me an atheist, but it did make me question Christianity. And but I wasn't really ready to let go of the whole idea of a higher power. So I started looking into other religions or other ways of believing, and that's how I ended up in. I met some pagans, and they convinced me that I should get involved. That it's loving, peaceful, great ideas, but with a little bit of wacky stuff that you just kind of may or may not be true. Why not explore it and find out? And then I did, and it took me 7 years to finally give up on that too, and then really accept that the answer to the question, well, really, do I need to believe in something without having reason to? And then exploring those reasons and finding that there really isn't a reason to believe.
Well, I bet the pagans were more fun anyway.
Well, certainly, in some respects. In others, I mean, in any group, in any religious group, you're going to find different variations on things they do right, things they do wrong, and stereotypes. So it's hard to really generalize because people are individuals. I certainly recognize certain stereotypes in the pagan groups I was in. But by the same token, people are individuals and they believe for different reasons, and they people embrace reasons differently, and it's easy to lump believers all under one umbrella and say, well, this is particular traits of a believer, but it's not usually really that simple, especially once you've been on the inside and then you come out of it and you look back and you realize, well, people really do approach belief differently, and it does help me inform my conversations today with believers. When Pennsylvania Nonbelievers, we table in public a lot, so we have a lot of interaction with people who are believers and either want to talk to us and tell us we're going to hell, or just want to engage honestly with us. And there's plenty that do want to engage in conversation honestly with us, and it helps me recognize the variety of belief. And there are some people who, especially that they don't come up in belief, and they go out and they try to talk to believers, and they really they don't know what they're talking about. They go out there and they talk about the stereotypes they observe and things like that, but they don't have a depth of belief to draw from to actually empathically talk to a believer, rather than kind of just throw things back in their face, and that's a little disappointing sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's something that it's hard to do, but it's really rewarding when you can talk to someone who has a different belief than you, and maybe you're not trying to sell the other person and you're just trying to figure it out. Because I really do believe that everybody kind of has their own. I think it's all an individual thing, so you really have to get that story and figure it out.
You have to be able to listen. You have to be able to listen to the person you're talking to and understand what it is they believe before trying to tell them what they believe. And it's one thing that Christians actually we get concerned when Christians try to put words in our mouths as far as what we believe. That's where the baby eating jokes come from and all the other stuff. Stereotypes of atheists. But we have to do it the other way around too. We have to make sure that while we're asking Christians to listen to us and treat us as individuals and respect us as human beings, we do have to listen to the individual person, whether or not we respect the beliefs.
That is a hard line that always gets blurred. The respect the person, but not the beliefs. Because usually when someone hears don't respect their beliefs, oh, you hate all, fill in the blank.
Oh, certainly.
Name your religion.
Oh, and it's certainly a hard line to walk. And I'd say that there's a lot of atheists that kind of confuse that do, unfortunately, push that line, where they stop. They don't stop at disrespecting the beliefs. Sometimes they do disrespect the person, and it's not something that I'm happy to see when I see it.
Yeah, it does. It does happen, and I don't know. I think sometimes people are aware of it, and sometimes they aren't. I'm going to take a very short break before we continue. So live read one. Don't have a ton this week about podcast of the week. I'm just going to say, did you hear No Illusions' vague reference to a show with Eli Bosnick on this week's Skeptocrat? I'm a little lathered, so that's something to look forward to in the podcast world. So we'll get back to the interview here with Brian. So Brian, we haven't even gotten into your background. Like, how did you get involved in all the groups you're involved with, the Pennsylvania, the conference, and the Pennsylvania Nonbelievers, and what Secular Coalition for Pennsylvania? There's a lot happening there in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Well, how I got in, it starts with Pennsylvania Nonbelievers. Back in 2008 or 9, I was looking for a group. Like I said, I wanted to get involved, and I wanted to do something. I'm a web developer. That's the job I get paid to do. And I started by offering Pennsylvania Nonbelievers a rewrite of their website. And the reason I did that was when I was looking for something to get involved in, I also noticed that American Atheist was holding their 2009 conference in Atlanta. And in that conference, they were going to have Richard Dawkins out. And as I said, I was inspired by the God delusion to a good extent. So my foray into activism was first I just wanted to meet him. I went to the American Atheist Conference in Atlanta, and I had already been checking out groups in Pennsylvania online, and I could not find any websites or any online presence for any groups in the area I was in. I figured if I go to the National Conference for American Atheists, I might run into someone from Pennsylvania who might, direct me where I should go. But it was really hard to try to find something. So I struck out. There wasn't anybody from Pennsylvania at the American Atheist Convention in 2009 that I met, at least not from the Harrisburg area. And so I got back here, and I found a Drinking Skeptically event that was run by Sharon Hill. And when I went to that event, I met people from Pennsylvania and found out about their meetups. I went to a couple of the meetups. I offered to help with the website because I found out they did have a website, but it wasn't search engine optimized in a way that anybody could really find it unless you knew exactly what you were looking for. And I did websites. I did marketing with websites, SEO optimization, something that's actually skilled at. Went and I redid the website. I optimized it, and they asked me to join their board of directors. They were talking about me becoming president. I was appointed to fill a spot that the president had stepped down, and then reran, and I've been president since 2011. In 2012, the Reason Rally happened, and I was very much interested in building coalitions amongst the groups here in Pennsylvania. We had, and I was kind of inspired a little bit by the Reason Rally and how American Atheists had drawn a bunch of groups together to make that happen. And it was a group effort, there's no doubt, but it was a group working together for a particular goal that had that was a huge success. And so I really thought that that model should work well for the state level. You know, you have a variety of grassroots groups. If they would just talking to each other directly, rather than through some imposed coalition or anything like that, maybe we could get a lot done. So I reached out to one of the other groups, Lancaster Free Thought Society in the area, and my goal when I went to the meeting was to meet with the president and discuss this idea of maybe building a coalition and doing some things. Well, it got toward the end of the meeting, and Scott Rhodes, who runs the group, came up and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, Brian, what do you think about forming a state coalition?" And my response was, "You bastard, that's what I was here for." But we got together pretty well, and we decided we had a couple basic things we wanted to do. We wanted to do lobbying. We wanted to have a statewide conference, and we wanted to build a coalition of groups and work with the other groups in Pennsylvania and just figure out how to work together on issues that affect the atheist community statewide. And Dan Barker was all, and we figured out that it may be a good idea, rather than just have an event with Dan Barker, to maybe build a conference out of it. Have a huge event, and maybe that would attract people, and we could build, we could pull in people from all over the state. And I thought we did a pretty good job. We got everything together. We put it together in 3 months. If anybody's listening who wants to put together a conference, I do not recommend doing it in 3 months. Give yourself a lot more time than that. But we did a great job, I think, and it went together pretty flawlessly. I mean, there were things that went on behind the scenes, but otherwise, I think, everybody told me they had a great time, and so we decided we wanted to make an annual thing out of it. Right around our first conference, we also found out that the Secular Coalition was already starting a state lobbying effort, wanting to build state coalition umbrellas. So rather than build our thing from scratch, we decided to get involved with the Secular Coalition work, and we formed the state chapter of the Secular Coalition for Pennsylvania in 2012. And Scott is the other co-chair at this point. And so he and I, from that first coalition discussion, we're already doing points 1 and 2, and I'm actively working on the third. We're working on building a state coalition umbrella. We've already got the groundwork laid. I've reached out to a lot of the state leadership in Pennsylvania. If there is anybody in Pennsylvania running a group that I don't know about or I haven't met, I'd love for you to reach out to me. We're still working to put that last piece together. But it's coming, and it's coming along, so I'm really excited about that. So yeah, that's pretty much how we got started, and we've been going. This will be our 4th year for our convention. I'm really excited about that. We have a project we're doing this year called Atheists Fight Hunger, which I'm really excited about. For 25 cents, we did a fundraiser over the last year for that. For 25 cents, we could feed one person one meal. And so 25 cents at a time, in some cases, we raised over $5,700, which translates into 22,800 and some odd meals. And I just actually sent the paperwork in today. We're going to have these meal parts come to the conference, And on Sunday, September 13th, the conference runs from September 11th to September 13th. But on Sunday, September 13th, we're going to have these meal parts delivered. We're going to turn the remainder of the conference on Sunday from 3 p.m. on into a food packing event. Even if you don't have a ticket, you're welcome to come to the food packing event. We'd love to have your help putting these meals together and showing the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, who will be delivering the food to, showing them that atheists do in fact care, and we would like to feed the hungry, and we're going to do 22,000 meals worth, and I'm really excited about that. We also have some wonderful speakers. We got Matt Dillahunty coming out, and Aaron Raw, and Seth Andrews, and Mandisa Thomas, and just so many other wonderful speakers. And you can check that out on our website, atheistpa.org.
You sure seem to be going to extremes, for your ultimate takeover of America, trying to act like you're taking care of people for your ultimate goal of destroying America. That's pretty impressive stuff right there.
Yeah, don't give it away. I mean, come on, what are you doing here? I mean, the playbook, you're supposed to follow the playbook. I mean, come on.
Oops. My bad. Just hope Pastor Manning and they're not listening to this. So what, I don't know, you've pretty much covered it. So is this the conference where Barroom Atheist is going to be doing a live show? Is that the one? Yeah,
Barroom Atheists are doing a live show. So is the Ramen podcast with Aaron Ra and Mark Nebo. We're going to have Sarah Moorhead's going to be there, the wonderful, wonderful person who is a good friend of mine, but she also is running ApostaCon and is the executive. I hope I have her title exactly right. She's the head, but I think it's executive director of Reason Rally 2016, and she also runs Recovering from Religion, and she's going to be our keynote speaker. And we have Shelley Siegel's going to be there. Just an amazing lineup. Every year I do it. Every year I do a conference. I'm always trying to figure out, well, how can we make it better this year than we did the last year? And I don't know how we do it, but this year I think we did a really good job, and I'm really proud of it.
Well, I got to go to my first atheist conference this year. I got to go to the Reason Rally in Hickory, and it was a really great experience.
You mean Reason Con?
Yeah, Reason Con. Did I say Reason Rally? Yeah, I guess that means I want to go next year.
Everybody should go. Go to the Reason Rally. Make sure it's on your. When they announce it, make sure you block out that time, and anything else that's going on in your life can wait. Go to the Reason Rally. It'll be worth it.
Do we know around when that's going to be? Because wasn't it kind of springish in 2012 when it happened last time?
I don't know, but apologies to Sarah. She's coming to my conference in September, and apologies to her, but if she doesn't announce by then, you can believe I'm going to be bugging her. But I know they're working really hard on it. So.
Yeah, I think that's one of my decisions for next year. I really think if I'm going to go to a conference, I really can only probably pull off one a year. And Reason Con was a lot of fun, but yeah, Reason Rally sounds like. I mean, 20,000 people showed up the first time? I mean,
the number's been hotly debated, but there's very good argument for north of 25,000.
Okay, so we'll be searching for six figures this time, right?
Yeah, I would hope so. But we're actually probably going to take a break from our conference next year in order to encourage people to go to the Reason Rally. That's where we're leaning towards, and then in 2017 we have plans for picking it back up, but we're going to take a break in 2016.
Is it a bit of craziness to try? Because you do like different locations, right, every year for the Pennsylvania conference?
We move it around the state. The first year it was in Harrisburg. The second year it was in Philadelphia. Third year we went to Pittsburgh. Now we're back in Harrisburg. 2017, we don't have an agreement yet, but I have some ideas about what we're going to do for that. And then after 2017, I think we're going to probably want to maybe open up into different areas of the state we haven't been before. We need to figure that out. But I first imagined it as a state conference, so it's going to be somewhere in Pennsylvania. I just don't know where. But we try to make it worth it for people to come in from out of state too. We want the conference to appeal to other people, but the idea is it's a conference by the state for the state. Everybody can enjoy it.
Yeah, I'd say with the lineup you have, that's a pretty good one, because I always hear about conferences, like you mentioned the fact that American Atheist was in Atlanta in 2009. I've been in Atlanta since 1996. I don't think I really got the atheist stirring until probably the early 2010s. Like, I had just heard about the Reason Rally, and there actually was like a bus that went there and basically drove to the event, and then
2012, yeah,
drove directly back. And I was like, well, maybe I should go. You know, kind of like Bill from Barroom Atheist, how he kind of, you know, got a ride to get down there, and that kind of got him going. And yeah, just missed out on that. So definitely something. It's something you have to experience, the conference, because you get to hang out with like-minded people. And I know in a way you're like, oh no, we're, you know, hive mind, but it's just, you get to relax a little bit. In your day-to-day life, you don't, you know, I have a day job. I'm not going to talk about atheist stuff there. No, that's not going to happen. But in this kind of event, you can feel more relaxed. And then you can find out we're both atheists. What else do we have in common? And usually you can find something, and that's good.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's nothing like being in a community full of people who you have at least one thing in common with, and then using that as an opportunity to find common ground. But I love conferences, and that's one of the reasons why I was so excited about, you know, starting one is that I love it, and I want to be able to share it with other people, and I want other people to have the same good time I'm having and recognize the value in the type of community that you can create in that kind of environment. And it's just amazing what you can do.
But as one of the people who organize it, is it hard to enjoy it as it happens? Do you kind of have to recall after it's over when you're totally exhausted and go, oh yeah, that was fun?
You know, the dirty little secret is probably you know, it's a lot of work. You spend the weekend very stressed, running around making it happen. But you know, honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way when it comes to creating something like that. But I admit that I enjoy going to conferences that aren't mine, and enjoying those. And then this conference is for me, it's one way that I give back to the community. Is to one of the nice things about state conferences is you can put the conference on. We do it on as tight of a budget as we can, so that we can keep the prices low as we can. And it's in the region that people are in. So, you know, American Atheists might hold their conference in Atlanta or the Midwest or wherever they hold it, or the other national conferences might have their conference, you know, somewhere else in the country. But here's a conference that's local, it's easy to get to, it's inexpensive, the hotel's not expensive, the prices are kept low, so it's reachable by more people than those that typically go to conferences. And so that's my way of giving back, is taking, you know, the connections I've made going to the national conferences and meeting people and talking to people and bringing that in, so that locals can have the same great time, not spend as much money, not have to travel a lot, and it's right there, and we're building the community, and so I feel really good about doing that. But I admit that I don't get a chance to really enjoy the conferences that we put on.
So what are some of the conferences you've been to that you've really enjoyed? And then what kind of ideas do you get? Because I'm sure when you're at another conference, like, ooh, we should try that, or oh, we need to get that speaker, that kind of thing.
I actually, I'm really excited about having Beth Presswood at my conference. She put on a fantastic talk at the American Atheist Convention. For those who don't know her, she's Matt Dillahunty's wife. She also did the Godless Bitches podcast. But she did a great talk on, and as an ex-believer myself, she did a great talk on how to come out of the closet at AACon. And she and I had a conversation about what talk she was going to do at our conference, and she's actually going to do a different talk. But again, it's from the perspective of an ex-believer, which, while there are plenty of ex-believers in the movement, there's also a lot of people who have never believed. And one of the things I think is that there's some communication breakdowns, I think, from people who have never believed versus people who have believed in the past. And I see a lot of value in this conversation being had to try and have this conversation between ex-believers and people who aren't ex-believers, so that there can be maybe an understanding when it comes to what it means to have believed and how to translate that into the conversation we were talking about earlier into how to have a conversation with the believer. So I see a lot of value in that, but also, I'm really excited about having her around, and that's one of the things, that probably wouldn't have happened if I hadn't gone to the American Atheist Convention and gotten a chance to have a conversation with her and invite her out. So I'm really excited about that. And don't get me wrong, we've had Seth Andrews out before, but I love having him out. He's just such a wonderful human being if you've ever had a chance to meet him. That's one of the things, going to the national conferences, getting to meet people. You meet wonderful people. Shelley Siegel's just a wonderful person, and I'm so looking forward to having her back out at the conference. And Matt Dillahunty and just all these people. You get a chance to meet them. You hang out with them, have a drink, get to know them. And so you asked about what conferences I've gone to. I've gone to American Atheist Convention. I've gone to TAM. I've gone the Amazing Meeting. I've gone to it wasn't really a conference, but Sarah Moorhead hosted Recovering from Religion hosted a debate between Matt Dillahunty and Cy ten Bruggencate, which was almost
Okay.
It was almost a conference type event. There were so many people that attended and all that stuff, so I went to that. I haven't gotten out to a lot of the state conventions and regional conventions that I keep wanting to. I think the people in North Carolina are going to eventually twist my arm, and I'm going to go down there. I'm looking forward to that. And I really, really, really want to get to Apostacon. I hear it's such a wonderful conference, and I just haven't gotten a chance to, but it's one I want to get to. But I can only afford so many conferences a year too. So, but American Atheist is one that I usually pencil in every single year. Now, next year they're not doing a convention, although there's going to be a mini convention around the ReasonCon, as I understand it, or not ReasonCon. Now I've got you're messing me up.
Yeah.
I've got it the other way around. Around the Reason Rally, I think they're doing a mini convention, but there isn't going to be an American Atheist convention. So I might take next year as an opportunity to get to some of the other smaller regional conventions and see how they do things. But we kind of stumbled on a formula that works financially for us. Really, the big piece about going to the other conventions is building the relationships with people that give me the opportunity to bring them into the convention. That's kind of the value. I mean, I do see how conventions work, and so that helped us figure out the framework for, how we do things like the scheduling and breaks and stuff like that, and what the standard practice is for certain things. I didn't start the conference to really copy other people. I wanted to kind of provide the value that we figure out and provide something that people will enjoy.
That sounds good. Now at ReasonCon, I did drink moonshine with Beth Presswood, so there you go. I got that going for me. She must have picked up some local stuff because she had this jar of moonshine. It was like, have a drink. I'm like, well, sure, why not? I mean, come on. When you're at a conference, the rules kind of go out the window.
Well, so, yeah, my trick is I go and I get a huge bottle of Jack Daniel's honey, and then I share with liberally, and then I stay up all night. But that's not the conference I run, because I have to kind of keep sober when I'm running a conference. I mean, I can have a drink or two, but relatively sober.
Yeah, ReasonCon was a lot of drinking. I brought a bunch of like Atlanta beers, thinking I was gonna like share with people, and I handed out a few, but most of them were consumed by me. So before we continue, I'm gonna do quickly my second live read of the show. I like to break things up a little bit. So if you want to support this show, well, that's really nice of you. Why don't you be like Bobby C, Miss Ashley, and Hugh Man and be my patron? Go to patreon.com/Zachrilege, and you can see how to spell it right there, and donate per episode. And I will cascade you with praise on this show, Twitter, and the Zachrilege Cast page on Facebook. So, Brian, have you been on the Bar of Atheist before? I feel like...
Yeah, I've been on a couple times. Bill's a good friend. We talk a lot. He actually he's come out to our events a couple times. We helped him introduce Susie to conferences with our first conference. I believe that was her first conference as well. But Bill and Susie are good people. I love them to death.
And that first conference is probably when Susie was still kind of not sure about whether she was going down this path that Bill was going down, right?
Right. Well, I think she had, as I understand it, she had just kind of made up her mind right around that time. And I'm not clear exactly whether she went to the conference first or she made up her mind first, but she was very clear after the conference that she was just so excited. And this is what I'm talking about when it comes to using the conferences to build communities. Her coming to the conference, having such a wonderful time with great people, and recognizing that the movement is a place that has really great people, and you can have a great time and do really important work and all of this other stuff. And, so that's what's so inspiring about these things. And if you haven't been to one of these conferences, I really recommend going. They're a lot of fun. The party doesn't stop when the last speaker stops, but you will get to know a lot of great people, and there's no doubt. I've never been to one of these conferences and not had a good time.
Yeah, I think I was on the last night of ReasonCon. I probably went to sleep around like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I feel like I was one of the earliest people to go to sleep. There were stories of the Golden Corral. There were stories of going to Waffle House. I don't think I could have gone to Golden Corral more than once that weekend and survived. So I'm kind of glad I only got to go that once, because that was a tough one. That was a lot of food.
Yeah, isn't ReasonCon a one-day event too? I mean,
well, it is Saturday, but they have a Friday night kind of VIP event, and I just went all in.
Oh, I see.
That's where Scathing Atheist did the the Roast of God. I only had to cut one line from the actual audio, so I feel like that was pretty good. Yeah, and most people were there for that, but it really is. They set it up to be one day. I don't know. What's your conference? It's the 11th to the 13th, right? So you go 3 days. Whoa.
Friday night, all day Saturday, and most of Sunday. That's one of the things you asked about. What do you take from the national conferences? It was recommended to me by people who have done conferences before. When we went to do our first conference, that we do a one-day event, and I said, "Screw that! I can get the content for 3 days. I can have the tickets paid, pay for the venue for the 3 days. Why not provide an experience for people?" And people came. I'm still the hardest task I have is figuring out who not to invite, which sucks because I end up with a whole list of people that I know and I care about, and I so think they have such a valuable message and want to bring them for the conference. And I just simply don't have the time, even within that 3-day period, to put them on. And I've said to many people, one of these days, if I were to put on a conference where I presented every voice that I think people should hear throughout the movement, and the budget would be astronomical, the time period would be months, and if anybody is interested in helping sponsor such an event, just let me know and we'll work it out.
Yeah. So about how many people were at the conference last year, and what's your projected attendance this year?
Last year we had about 150 people. It was a little down from previous years, but this year our ticket sales have been actually very healthy. We have a lot of people coming. I have, you can't really judge the final totals by a month and a half out because people are going to be buying. There's a rush when you first announce, and then there's a lull of a ticket every now and then it spikes again as you get closer to the conference. And but I'm interested to see if we sell out this year. We have space for 300, and we are about at half capacity right now, or approaching half capacity.
That's challenge, people. Let's get this number up.
Yeah.
Let's make Brian a happy man.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. The conference is run by Pennsylvania Nonbelievers, which is a nonprofit. When we make a profit on the conference, we roll that into the next years. In future years, we're probably going to have a separate organization that is specifically for running the conference, and the reason for that is we want to have groups from all over the state directly involved in producing the conference. It's something we've always kind of planned on because we wanted this conference to be the state's conference. Right now, we handle it by sponsorships. We have groups all over the state sponsoring the conference and helping out and pitching in and volunteering and helping us with it. But I want all of the groups that are of any size in the state to really kind of have a voice in this effort. And so when we reconvene in 2017, I'm hoping that is going to be the case. And any of the money we're raising is going to go back into the movement here in Pennsylvania.
So when people leave a conference, there's a lot of excitement and momentum, it feels like. How do you keep that going? Do you have to follow up with people in terms of keeping your coalition strong when there's not this big event that everybody's looking forward to, and when it happens, everybody's kind of like, that was fun, now I'm kind of tired?
It's one of the things, the way we maintain the momentum is by building communities. And I'm not just talking about a meeting group or a group that meets once a month. I mean building honest-to-goodness, face-to-face groups of people who care about the well-being of other people in the group. Because then it only takes a few people in this group who have even a modicum of excitement to drive other people into wanting to be part of what's going on. And so the way to capitalize on the momentum is to encourage people to really directly get involved while you're at the conference. One of the things we do is we encourage, by offering very, very low-cost tabling for nonprofits, we encourage the groups in Pennsylvania to actually have the face at the conference. I mean, we want nonprofit informational vendors, as many as we can, that are from Pennsylvania, actually at the conference, looking at people face to face, having the conversations, and encouraging them to get involved. And that's how we can take the conference itself and move it past the conference to get membership up in these groups in Pennsylvania. to hit a critical mass with the community so that people are so excited about staying involved, and then turning that into action, whether it's and when people use activism, there's the whole debate in the atheist community about what is activism, or what it means to be an activist group or a social group, and I think the argument is bullshit, to be frank. If you are getting together with other people and building a community, you're an activist. If it's because you're building those community connections.
Got a little bit of a delay here. Just want to make sure we're still here. Brian, you with us? It's a moment of silence. I see the face, but I do not see the movement.
Can you hear me?
There it is. Okay. Yeah, it's just a little bit of a delay on that last answer you had.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, still there.
Where did I cut out?
Well, we were just talking about building community and
Can
being
you
an
hear me?
activist. Yeah, I can. Having a little bit of slowness. Say hello, Harrisburg. Come on. Looks like we have possibly lost Brian. That's hard to say. We're just going to get to the most exciting questions of all. I think there's breathing.
Can you hear me?
Still a little bit delayed, but I do hear you.
Hello.
This is going to be interesting on replay. So you still okay? I kind of see your icon, and
Okay.
your view is kind of.
If you can hear me, where did I?
You just said, "Where did I?" and then that was it. We were just talking about activism. Silence. That's not good. Come on, Brian. I believe in you. Come on. You can do this. You can speak. I do want to say, if we lose Brian, and he's probably going to pop back in a second, I do want to say thanks to Stacy Rebrol for helping get my guest this week. I got in touch with her on Facebook. She is one of those connective tissue people in the community that is very helpful in keeping everybody going. She's the one that got my drunk ass on the I think Atheist on Air show that was at ReasonCon. I do see Brian's avatar, and I see that he wait, we might have something. I don't know.
Can you hear me?
We got you back, I think.
Yeah, okay. So, sorry, I don't know what happened.
For a no lunch required. Apparently,
what was
we
the
had
last
equipment issues.
that was on air? Do you know?
Well, it was just, you were talking about the conference and how to keep momentum going and how to get people involved and stay active and kind of get those local groups going and just, keep the momentum, keep rolling downhill, basically. Gather no moss. Oh, no. This hasn't happened in like 2 weeks.
Hello?
I gotcha. Still, sort of, partially.
Hello? Okay. Okay. What I was trying to say was that one of the things we do is we encourage groups to. Can you hear me still?
Yes. You're there. You're going. Uh-oh.
Encourage groups to. We want to encourage groups to come out and table and have a face-to-face interaction with the people at the conference, so you can draw them in and get involved. And that's really what I.
Okay. I saw your avatar there, but I think we got you, maybe. Hello, Brian. Let's see if he hears this. That's where we are right now. Oh, wait. This is bizarre. We got, I've never seen this before. You were like on and then you dropped off and then there was a second version of you. So is this, if you showed up without the beard, then I know that with the evil version of you.
Yeah, probably. I mean, unless I've been somewhere near Razor in the last 6 months.
It's a strong beard game. I mean, there's a lot of, good facial hair going on. I'm kind of jealous, but I just can't do it. So
I have to bow my head to on the East Coast you have Mark Nebo, and on the West Coast you have Dan Ellis, who both collectively have probably the most epic beards I've ever seen.
There's some quality stuff. So before we call it a night, do you have a question for me?
I don't know. I don't think so. Who are you having on next week or next time?
I'll probably find out around Monday, like I usually do. I'm very last minute. I was listening to what was it, Trailer Park Atheist or Atheist in a Trailer Park, and it was like, I'm booking people in September. I'm like, next week, I want to get Jeremiah Kamara on, although I've been having, it's been kind of quiet. I know he's doing, there's a conference in St. Louis, I think this weekend, so maybe after that I can get him. Because I just read one of his books, and I wanted to see his documentary, and I really think 25 episodes in, it's probably time to see the African-American experience.
You haven't seen it yet? I've seen it. It's good.
I haven't seen it. No, I don't think he quite has like a video download. Like he had a DVD, so I need to get my hands on that one. And he's local too. We're both in Atlanta, so got to get that.
Yeah. I'm friends with Steve Hill, and he hooked me up, and I watched it. Yeah. So
it's all about who you know. So Brian,
go to the conferences, have drinks with people, get in. That's the key. You build. I mean, whether you're doing it on a national level or doing it on a local level, building a community, I think, is really so important, and it's something that we can't neglect. And that's one of the reasons I like going to the national conferences. It's one of the reasons I enjoy putting on a local conference. I really think that a community is vital to our movement.
Yeah, I think it's very vital to humanity in general, and oftentimes I think religion takes it and says, this is our thing, and it's like, no, people getting together is a people thing. It's okay.
Exactly.
So Brian, before we call it a night, pimp thyself, tell everybody where they can find you, and more importantly, your conference and all that good stuff.
Well, you can find me on Facebook under Fields B, or you can find me on Twitter under Geek Exile. You can find Pennsylvania Nonbelievers at PANonbelievers.org. You can find the convention at atheistpa.org. That's atheist singular. Our intention is to say that this is our state too, and we have something to say about it. And you can find the Secular Coalition for Pennsylvania at pa.secular.org. And feel free to reach out to me on any of those channels, and I'm happy to help where I can, especially if you're trying to get a local group started in Pennsylvania or some support. Me and Scott and plenty of others are happy to help you out. So I'm serious about we really, community is so important, and I think there is a vibrant community in this state, and we are so happy to help anybody who wants to get moving on building that support network in that community.
And one more time, what is the Twitter handle?
Geek Exile. GeekExile.
Geek Exile? Is that what? Okay.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. It's one of those things, it seems like with the American atheists, they're more Facebook than Twitter. Almost everybody I get in touch with, they have oh yeah, I started a Twitter account 3 years ago and I ignored it. So it's good to know that there's someone else who's involved. So as I mentioned, when you were Brian was sort of out of it, I got Stacy Rebel was the person who got us kind of hooked up for tonight. So thanks again for her. And hugs are on me next time we meet. Also, Mailey and Corrine, I can never eat broccoli again. Thanks, Brian, for being on the show. It was a lot of fun. And if your conference is as good as your ability to speak on a podcast for an hour, I think it's going to be one of the events of the year. So you really need to get yourself up to Harrisburg and party down. And buy him a drink and drink it yourself. So, so good night, everybody. And as we like to say here, stay skeptical.